What happens when three individually approved diabetes medicines are mixed into a single pill and sold as a convenient treatment? According to the Delhi High Court, the result is not automatically a safe medicine, but a new drug that must independently prove that it will not harm patients. Hello and welcome to The Print. This is Ruchi Bhattar, and in this video, I'll tell you how, while restoring the centre's ban on certain type 2 diabetes drugs, the Delhi High Court has ruled that the government is entitled to step in at the stage of likely risk without waiting for patients to suffer actual injury, hospitalization, or death. In a second round of litigation, a division bench of Justices Anil Shetarpal and Harish Vaidyanathan Shankar set aside a 2019 single judge order that had quashed the ban and allowed the drugs to continue being sold. The court stressed that judges are not equipped to evaluate medical dosages or scientific literature. Since an expert committee had already analyzed extensive research and concluded the drugs were risky, the single judge should not have replaced expert assessment with judicial reasoning. The court ruled that judges are institutionally ill equipped to decide on the appropriate dosage of medicines or the scientific weight of research papers. Since an expert committee, the DTAB subcommittee, had already analyzed and concluded the drugs were risky, the court should not have substituted its own judicial reasoning for an expert assessment. It concluded that the single judge had exceeded the permissible limits of judicial review, and by analyzing the scientific data independently, the lower court had acted as an appeal over an expert body, which is not allowed under constitutional law. Now, what are these drugs and why were they banned? Let's look into it. The case concerns fixed dose combinations, or FDCs, a formulation containing two or more active pharmaceutical ingredients in a single pill. While they are often marked for convenience of patients who would otherwise have to take multiple tablets, the court noted that health experts have long raised alarms about the irrational combinations that lack scientific justifications or pose hidden risks. The specific FDCs under challenge combined three anti-diabetes drugs. On September 7, 2018, the central government issued two notifications banning these triple drug combinations. In 2016, the government ban and the Supreme Court's direction. The controversy traces back to 2016 when the central government banned 344 FDCs following recommendations by the Kokate Committee, which found many of them to be irrational. Pharmaceutical companies challenged the bans across various high courts, and the matter eventually reached the Supreme Court. In Union of India versus Pfizer Limited 2017, the Supreme Court ordered a fresh and detailed review. The court directed the Drugs Technical Advisory Board (DTAB) to form a subcommittee and examine each drug using three specific questions. First, is the drug likely to involve risk to humans? Second, does it lack therapeutic value? And lastly, does it contain ingredients without therapeutic justification? What happened in 2018 when the expert committee flagged safety risks? Following the Supreme Court's order, a DTAB subcommittee heard submissions from drug manufacturers as well as public health groups such as the All India Drug Action Network (IDAN). After examining 395 scientific publications, the committee recommended a complete ban on the triple drug combinations. Its conclusions were based on two key concerns. First, a risk of hypoglycemia, saying that the use of all three drugs together could dangerously lower blood sugar levels. Secondly, there was no combination, specific safety data. The manufacturers relied on the safety of individual drugs but failed to produce clinical data showing that the three drug combination was safe when taken as a single pill. The committee noted that such combinations were not accepted by international drug regulators. In 2019, the single judge set aside the ban. In the February of 2019, a single judge of the Delhi High Court quashed the government notifications, calling the ban arbitrary. The judge reasoned that all three drugs were individually approved and recommended in standard diabetes treatment guidelines. Noting that the risk of over or under prescription exists with all FDCs and cannot alone justify a ban, the judge said that taking one pill instead of three offered significant convenience to patients. The matter was sent back to the DTAB for reconsideration, effectively allowing the drugs to remain on the market in the meantime. The division bench order overturned the single judges in 2026. In the meanwhile, the Union of India and IDEN challenged the single judge ruling before a division bench. Last week, in a 46-page detailed judgment, the High Court firmly rejected the earlier reasoning. This time, the court held that the single judge's approach was fundamentally flawed and ruled that, I quote, it cannot be presumed as a matter of law or science that individual drug components would behave, interact, or manifest identical safety profiles when administered in combination. Such a presumption is antithetical to the regulatory framework, end quote. Under drug law, an FDC is treated as a new drug, and manufacturers have a mandatory statutory obligation to independently establish its safety and efficacy, an obligation they failed to meet. Interpreting Section 26A of the Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940, the court held that the government does not need to wait for deaths or hospitalizations before acting. The bench said, and I quote, that the statutory standard prescribed under Section 26A of the Drugs Act does not require the establishment of actual or proven harm to human beings. The focus of the inquiry, therefore, is not on demonstrable injury, but on the potential or foreseeable risk arising from the continued use of the drug, end quote. The court dismissed the convenience argument that had swayed the single judge. It ruled that while taking one pill is easier for a patient, convenience cannot supplant considerations of safety. Ultimately, the court allowed the appeal by the government and IDEN, setting aside the 2019 single judge ruling. The prohibition on the manufacture, sale, and distribution of these triple drug combination is restored with immediate effect. With that, thank you for watching.